Thank you, Nawal, for this testimony. Tahrir, the floor is yours.
Hello. My name is Tahrir Swift. I'm from an organization called Tadamun Iraqi Women Solidarity. I'm speaking on behalf of Narmeen Saleh al-Rubai. She sent her apologies. She couldn't come. So I'm reading her testimony as it's written by her own self. Her testimony was actually documented by the Arab Organization of Human Rights, in which my thanks go to them. My thanks go to Aisha Minyar. She's a journalist and a supporter of Guantanamo London campaign. So, right, okay. Can I have a second, please? Okay. So this is the case of Narmeen Saleh al-Rubai, her daughter Zainab, and her husband, Palestinian, Shawqi Ahmed Omar. Narmeen is a Swedish national. Shawqi is a US national. Right. So, there I go. On October 29, 2004, my husband and I were invited to my uncle's house in Zayuna, Baghdad, for an engagement party. We decided to stay overnight. I was 4 months pregnant with my daughter at the time. At 10 p.m., the American soldiers attacked the house. They blew up the main door, and they broke in from all entrances without any warning. They came to the room where I was sitting with my husband. They came in with weapons and dogs. They started to hit my husband before asking any questions. They were hitting him with their gun butts on his head and all over his body. My husband was bleeding a lot from the wounds inflicted. They herded the other people in the house, including my parents, into the other rooms. I tried to stop the soldiers, to plead with them to stop beating my husband, but they would not. There were so many US soldiers, they filled the room. One of them hit me on the head and knocked me to the ground. Then they let a black dog attack me. I'm very afraid of dogs, and I was shaking with fear. They made me squat on the ball of my feet, blindfolded me, and tied my hands behind my back. All that time, they were still beating my husband, who never resisted them. The raid lasted 4 hours. I found out later that all the money and all the jewelry in the house, including those worn by the women, were taken that night. All men in the house were arrested. They took my husband and me in their vehicles to an unknown location. While I was in the vehicle, they told me that I needed to confess, or else they're going to rape me. They put me into an airplane and took me to the place of interrogation. I spent 16 days there. During that time, the interrogations did not stop for 1 minute. The investigators were coming in one after the other. They tried in every way to make me say what they wanted me to say. They used cursing and bad language to humiliate me. Other times they used beatings and electricity. They threw cold water on me, and again threatened to rape me if I didn't confess. Okay. They told me they would send me to Abu Ghraib and do to me what they did to people there. They told me they would take me there and rape me. I did not know where I was. I found out later it was the notorious secret prison of Camp Na'ma. They tortured and beat me a lot, and they found out I was pregnant. They told me they would kill the baby in my womb. They concentrated their beating and electricity on my abdomen area. I could hear the torture of my husband. He was in the next room. They took me to the interrogation room to witness them using electricity on my husband's genitalia. Concentrating their torture there, they put his head in cold water. They used sleep deprivation. They took me 3 times in front of my husband and threatened to rape me in front of him if he did not confess. They kept telling him they would rape his 9-year-old son in front of him. This was a lie because they did not have his 9-year-old son in custody. All that time, I was kept in a room, 1 meter by 1 meter. I was blindfolded. My hands were tied behind my back, and they made me squat, balancing on the balls of my feet for hours at a time. And sleep was not allowed. I did not sleep for 16 days. They kept trying to make me take a pill. I didn't know what it was, so I refused. They forced me to take it. After 16 days, they dropped me off on a street, I did not know where. After I got out, I went to see a specialist doctor. She examined me and told me that for sure my baby has been affected by this torture. My daughter is 8 years old now, and she is born with cerebral palsy. After that, I didn't hear anything from my husband for a few months, until I got a letter through the Red Cross telling me that he's in solitary confinement at Camp Buka in Basra. Basra is 7 hours away from Baghdad. I would make appointments to visit my husband, go all that way, then they would refuse to let me see him. This happened several times. My daughter was only a few months old then. Months would go by, we didn't hear anything about my husband. Then we found out that he stayed, yes. So he spent 9 months in solitary confinement in Buka. So Shawqi was in the last group of prisoners to be turned over to the Iraqi custody on the 15th of July 2011. He was with those in prison at the airport, Camp 7. And the guard discriminated against him because of his sect, treating him in a very inhumane manner. And torture and maltreatment continues to date. Recently, the guards put bleach in the prisoners' food.